Phase 5 is here bringing new raids, epic gear, and game-changing class updates. I've got some hot takes that'll hopefully make you glad you picked your class, so stay tuned. We'll dive into how each class is feeling so far in Phase 5, the latest raid performance data, and the community's fiery reactions. So Phase 5 in Season of Discovery, it is really exciting, because not only are we getting all these new affixes with extra bonus loot, we're getting up to 40-man flex rating, but we're also getting Zul'Gurub, we're getting a brand new Prince Thunderand raid, we're talking new epics, new gear upgrades, so many new pieces of loot. It is a really good time to be playing WoW. Then to top it off, we have massive rebalancing to every aspect of the game, every class, every spec. Knowing exactly where your class stands in Phase 5 could really make or break your raid experience, so let's get to it. Starting off in the C tier, let's look at the classes that just are falling a little bit behind. In last place, unfortunately, we do have the Shadow Priests. Two things you gotta know about Shadow Priest. First, they don't actually suck. There is literally a Shadow Priest in the top 6 on Warcraft logs right now. The thing is, BWL is really intentionally designed so that every different fight has different classes with strengths and weaknesses. You take a Shadow Priest on Vale, there is no way they can compete with a class like a Warrior. You put a Shadow Priest in Ebon Rock and Flamegore though, and all of a sudden they are blasting with their multi-dots, they're getting priority on Claw of Chromagus later in the raid, you get the picture. The other thing about Shadow Priest to know though is they really scale better now. You're getting 200% critical strike damage on your spells now with the Despair rune, which is a big difference for scaling. Also in the C tier is the Enhancement Shaman. Look, a geared Enhancement Shaman can still top the meters on specific fights. The thing is, they're falling victim to one of my first hot takes, the haves and have-not systems of BWL. If you have a melee-oriented fight like Vale, where the melee are significantly advantaged, they're blasting hard, there are going to be certain classes like the Warriors and the Rogues that are always going to top the meter in that type of fight. The problem is on that beneficial melee fight, there's a hierarchy, and unfortunately Enhanced Shamans are near the bottom of the list. Then imagine you're switching to a range-oriented fight like Chromagus, except the Enhanced Shamans don't do very well in that fight either. They're just the victim of this haves and have-not system. So moving into the B tier, we've got classes that have a lot of potential, but there is still definitely some room for some buffs and improvements. Of course, we've got to talk Balanced Druids, and yes, they are having an amazing Phase 5 so far. They get a thick new weapon in Glacier. They get an amazing Astral Visage, which lets you actually see your gear instead of being a boomkin. And we had a boomkin blasting #1 DPS on Ebon Rock and Flamegore, so they're definitely in a way better position than they were in Phase 4. Problem is, with their insane utility, Blizzard will never let them top the meters. But that's okay. You've still got your Battle Res, your Innervate, and very solid damage. Really, there's no problem getting a raid spot. Also in the B tier, we've got to talk Ellie Shamans. So after all the hype, the excitement, the forum posts, the angry Reddit posts by Paladins, you would think that Ellie Shamans were the gods of DPS. Okay, I'm scrolling, and 238. That's right, 238 is the highest ranked Ellie Shaman in the world right now. On the melee fights, the haves and have-not system of BWL, unfortunately the Ellie Shamans are just gonna suck. Then, when you're talking range fights, they're like 4th or 5th best range DPS. So really, what can you expect here? I'm gonna need your most coherent alliance argument in the comments. What makes Ellie Shaman overpowered right now? Because I'm just not seeing it. Also in the B tier, we've got to talk Warlocks. Warlock is in this really frustrating position. Top 6 on the Sims if you're going pure damage. But who is letting you go pure damage? Every single guild is making you go support Warlock, which is below average DPS. Ultimately, if you can convince your raid leader to let you bring a second Warlock, you are going to pop off on Broodlord. You're going to dominate on Chromagus. Unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. Also in the B tier, we've got to talk Hunters. I get it, the Sims are unbelievable. The melee weaving is fantastic, but that's not the reality of Hunters. You put the average Hunter in BWL, they're shooting their bow, they're running in for melee attacks. They're not going to play nearly as efficiently as a Sim. Plus, is it just me or does literally everyone hate melee weaving? If you like melee weaving, let me know, but I have never seen anyone like it. Let's say, okay, you don't want to melee weave, you're going to go melee two-hander. You're going to blast with maybe a big ash candy. Or you say, okay, I want to roll it back to Phase 3 in my time machine, and I'm going to pump the bars just standing there with my Azrathul. Probably not going to have a great time because those are both below average specs. Now let's dive into the A tier, where we have classes that are really excelling this phase. Of course, we've got to start with the Feral Druids. So yeah, Feral Druids got the best utility in the game next to Boomkins. They get thick exclusive weapons every phase, like the new Raylar staff. They even get to keep their Firecat aesthetic, because why not just give them literally everything? Okay, here's a drawback. Maybe they're only top 5 DPS in Phase 5. But I would say it doesn't really matter. They are still the biggest winners in SoD by a big margin. Also in the A tier, we've got to talk Paladins. Well, everybody on Horde has been sounding the alarm time and time again about these Ret Paladins being insanely overpowered going into Phase 5. And we finally got the big reveal. We finally got our Ret Paladins out in the wild, and they're just okay. As a physical class, though, they do take their time to ramp up. We're talking the Untamed Blade, the tier set. Maybe it'll take them some time, and then maybe they will reach the insane sims that we keep looking at, but realistically, maybe top 5 or 6. Also in the A tier, we've got the Rogue. Rogues may not be the #1 damage right now, but Blizzard is working overtime to keep them happy. We walked into BWO, we killed Razorgore, very first drop we got was some notes to get Bobka, our Rogue, his Dream Eater weapon, which is BIS the entire phase. Then we just walk into ZG, he's getting all his pieces there too, gets his Red Ataki in 2 weeks, and coupling this with the fact that AB is going to be the meta for all of Phase 5, it seems like. This is a really, really awesome time to be a Rogue. Finally, we've got the S tier, the absolute top DPS dominating in Phase 5. Second best class right now, we're talking Mage. I gotta say, I don't really care how much damage mages are doing. They keep dying with Balefire Bolt, which is always going to be hilarious. I've got to give them some extra credit for that. You also got to look at the fact that this is the highest caster DPS class in the game. You've got to look at the fact that they have multiple build options. They can go Fire, or they can even go Arcane if they want to. Then they get one of the sickest new weapons in the game. They can pick a staff like the Staff of the Inferno, which is just awesome. Between that and the infinite money from Mage Portals, I am getting so close to wanting to make a Fire Mage. So the #1 class, we're talking the S+ tier class, is the Warrior. Ignore the forum posts saying that Warrior is trash. Just ignore the sims that say Warrior is top 5 or 6. Ignore all of it and look at some of those top Warrior parses. They are blasting at the highest level. When you think about some of these sims, some of these projections, and how they value a class, they don't value the Warrior on a fight like Veil doing 10, 11,000 DPS. This is the time to start your Warrior, to level up using the 150% leveling boost from 50 to 60. Get your Shaman friend to help you, let's all make a Warrior, and let's have some fun. So Phase 5 is bringing so many new exciting changes and challenges as well. Whether you're at the top or just the bottom of the DPS tier list, there is so much room to improve. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more hot tips and even hotter takes.